Welcome to lesson 10 of programming using Visual Basic. In this lesson, we're going to look at counts, totals, and averages. We're going to identify and describe an algorithm, and we're going to explore the use of counts, totals, and averages when coding. So an algorithm is a sequence of steps needed to complete a task. One way of writing down an algorithm is by using pseudocode. It's like a computer program, but written in English. It must, however, display the structure of the program. So an example, a sequence of exam marks is input and terminated by a rogue value. The number of exam marks greater than 50 need to be output. This is an example of a counting program. To count, we need to declare an integer value or variable to do the counting, but we must make sure it is initialized or started or set to 0. So the pseudocode algorithm for this is as follows: counter equals 0, repeat, input, and then your mark. If mark is greater than 50, then increment counter by 1, end if, until the end of the data, and output, and at the very end you output your counter. The other way, as another one, is an example of doing total, is a sequence of prices is input. The total amount of the bill is to be output. To code this, you need a variable for the total, and the pseudocode for that algorithm would be set the total to 0, repeat, input price, add price to total until the end of the data, and then output the total. So again, you'd have your rogue value. Let's test this out. Let's see how this works. Okay, we're going to create a new Windows format. We're going to call this counts, totals, and average. And we are going to create a new window. And for this, I'm going to create a, let's just create add a button here. Let's just, and we'll add a label underneath, because this is where we can then add our, we'll add 2 labels, one here and one here. Actually, let's add a text box. And put that in the middle. There we are. So we're going to say button. We're just going to do the default names for this one. So I'm going to say text will be click here. Okay. And the label here will be the total number of exam marks over 50 are. Here we are, let's see, there we go. Okay, and then it will appear in this text box down here. We're going to double click on our button and we can enter it into this event handler here. So the start bit we want to do is we want to create a variable. So we'll call this counter and we'll assign the value 0 to begin with. And we are going to keep repeating it until we put x, x, x in. So we're going to use a do while. Do while, we're going to say do while the, what we're looking for, exam marks. So we probably need another variable up here called dim exam marks. And we'll just say we'll just say dim exam marks here. So do while exam marks is not equal to xxx, and then inside there we now will want to do our we now want an input, so we want to take an input in here. So we need to have exam marks, and we're going to use an input box, and we'll say in this input box, enter an exam mark or xxx to exit, and then next we need a condition for this. If exam mark, not if exam marks, but if exam marks are greater than 50, then we want to increment the counter. So we want to take the counter, and we want to take the counter again and then add 1. And probably on here, actually, we probably say if let's just copy and paste this. We probably could have an else here as well. So I can say else down here. In fact, else if, because I think this is quite a useful bit. Let's just copy that and paste that into there. So we can have an else if. So here we can say if the end marks is equals to or not equals to if it's we can say if it's not equals to here, like we had before, not equals to xxx, then we do another if in here. We just do another if, which will be within here. So we do another if. We have an end if down here, end in this. And then we need another end if down here, which ends this if. Okay? So if I run this now, click, we can add 34, we get 56, that's 1, 45, 73, which is 2, 89, which is 3, 23, 98, which is 4, xxx, and it should exit. Oh, something's missing. I know what's missing. We haven't displayed the count down there. So let's, when that loop has finished, okay, when it's finished, we now need to have it displaying back in that text box down the bottom. So we need to have an output here. So we need to have text box 1, because I've named it, equals, and it will be counter. And actually, I should have said as integer up here. I didn't say that. Dim as integer. I forgot to name our things properly down here. And text box should be text box dot text. There we are. So text box dot text equals counter, so it will display it. Play it again. Let's add 4 numbers in here. So click. Oh, yeah, because I've said as integer, we need to, let's just take that off. Let's say as string, because of obviously if it won't work. Oh, it's in break mode, which is a pain. Let's just stop that for a minute. Play that again. There we go. Okay, so if I do 43, 34, 32, let's add 98, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I've entered 4 there. So it should show 4 in the text box. Press enter, and then it shows 4, which is perfect. Okay, so we've got that part. Next part, of course, we want to do is, so that counts up, that increments. We've got count equals counter plus 1. What about finding a total? Okay, we've got counter, we've got exam marks here. What happens if we want total here? So we need to create a variable called, let's have this called dim total. So we create our variable called total there and we want to add do we want it as an integer? Maybe not. Maybe we want it as a decimal. So maybe we want it as a floating number or so let's have so looking back earlier, it is called single. Okay, so set it as single, which means you've got 2 decimal places. And this time, so we don't need the exam marks this time, but perhaps we want to have price as a string. I'm going to leave counter there, but price as a string. If price is not equals to X, then it will end. And then we can say price equals input, enter a price of an item or XXX. If price is not equals to XXX, then what we need to do here is basically we want to add the price to the total. Now, where we've got here, if I suddenly do this as price as total, we should need to just say equals 0 for this. If total equals price add it equals total, because that's the add price, you will find at this moment an error will occur because we've got price as a string. Okay, you then need to convert price to a number. So I can say dot, and if we go down here, I can then find one that says to string. So we've got to card, to array, to not to string, because to string is the thing we want it to a number here. Actually, maybe we do here. Maybe I can put this down as a single as well. And then if price dot to string equals that, and then price equals input. See if, do I have to enter this as something? So if price dot to string is not equals to X, then total equals total plus price. and then we want to just display back the total. And then I can just go over here and just change the total cost is, like so. Let's just check if this works. I think it will come up with an error. So if I type 43.9988, 12.99, 32.76, 43.50. If we put XXX, let's see if this works. There was an error because it's allowing us to enter price, it's entering a number, but because it's expecting that to be a text. So let's just go dot to string. Let's try that on here. That doesn't work there. Let's just try that a different way here. So that should be price. So we could say price. What we could have is we get price 1 and price 2 maybe. So we could then say instead, let's say price. We have another one here. So we could have, maybe call this value perhaps. And this is price. So price value will be a string. And that down here, we're looking at whether the value is not equals to X. We're storing the value as this. And if the value is not equals to X, okay, then we want to then take the price and then have the contents of value stored in price. And so if I press count this time, click, we enter some numbers, let's press XXX, see if this works, and it comes up with a total 68.17, which is what we want. Okay, so that's perfect. And so that's how to do total now. The next part, of course, is if you want to do a, let's say you want to do an average. There is no average function. So if you want to find the average in this, we need to then take the count and take the total together, and put them together. So we've got the total here. We now need to use the counter to then work out how many times this loops. So every time it loops, it will go up. Now, if I put my counter within the if, it's not going to probably work. Okay, so maybe we want to say we want a new variable. We've got counter already, which is good. Counter equals counter plus 1. Okay, do we want that one there? Perhaps not, because it might include, actually that might include the XXX. Let's put that in here. Okay, so counter equals counter plus 1. We've got counter 0. At this time, you've got total divided by counter, which should give you the average. So let's just play this. And if I put 25, 25, 25, XXX should give the average of 25. There we go. Because 25 and 25 and 25 is 75, divided by 3 is 25. Simple. So we just do a very simple one there. Your challenge, and we'll come back to this. Write a program for the using the skills I've shown you. Write a program for the examples that I've shown you, which inputs a sequence of exam marks terminated by a row value. Program counts the number of exam marks greater than 50. So input 60, 32, 41, 75, 88, 19, 27. The output should be there are 4 marks greater than 50. So a hint, to increment a variable means to add 1. So you can use counter equals counter plus 1. Next one is to write a program for using the examples I've shown you that calculates the total bill. So for example, prices 1020, 350, 210, total is 1580. Prices 0.20, 0.75, 1.90, 2.30 gives you a total of 515. There's a hint there to have a look at. And then finally, the pupil wants to input all the exam marks and output the average mark. Can you write a program for this? You'll need to use the count and the total, and the exam marks, the example data is there to use. Good luck. I look forward to seeing you in the next video.